Today, we're going to get under the hood of the global auto industry. We're going to uncover all those complex, often invisible forces. You know, everything from the raw materials in the ground to the fine print on a loan that really decide what we drive and, more importantly, what we pay for it.
So let's just start with this one simple question. When you look at that sticker price on a new car, what do you think you're actually paying for? If you're just thinking steel, parts, and labor, well, that's not even half the story.
You know, the easiest way to break this all down is to think of the auto industry as a two-sided coin. It's really that simple. On one side, you've got the immense challenge of actually making the car. And on the other, you have all the forces that decide if anyone is even going to buy it. So let's start with that first side.
Okay, let's dive right into side number one, the supply chain squeeze. This is all about what it takes to get a car from a simple idea on a drawing board all the way to a shiny vehicle in the showroom. Think about it. A car is basically a giant, complex puzzle made of commodities. We're talking about the big stuff like steel, iron, and aluminum, rubber for all the tires and seals, and of course, batteries, whether you're talking about the classic lead-acid kind or the lithium ones that are powering the whole EV revolution. And the prices for all this stuff, they are always changing. And when I say changing, I mean they can be incredibly volatile. Just take a look at iron ore, which is a key ingredient for steel. As you can see here, the price can swing wildly over time. For an automaker, one unexpected price spike can literally wipe out the entire profit margin they were planning to make on a car. But, you know, this supply squeeze isn't just about the big, heavy materials. Sometimes, the biggest headaches come from the absolute smallest parts. I mean, we're talking about a piece of tech so tiny you could probably fit a dozen of them on your fingertip. But it can create a problem so massive that it brings the entire global industry to a screeching halt. Yep, the semiconductor. These tiny little chips are the brains behind pretty much everything in a modern car. And when the pandemic hit and everyone suddenly needed them for laptops and webcams, well, the auto industry found itself way at the back of the line. The result? Assembly lines just stopped. And this isn't some theoretical problem. This really happened. The recent semiconductor shortage forced just about every major car company to slash their production. We saw factories sitting idle for months, which created huge delays for customers waiting for their new cars. It's the perfect example of how one tiny little component can hold the whole industry hostage. And then, of course, you still need people. You can have all the fancy robots in the world, but building cars is still an incredibly labor-intensive business. And that means anything that affects the workforce, we're talking strikes, public health issues, you name it, can shut down production just as fast as a parts shortage. Okay, so let's flip the coin, because you can build the most perfect, most efficient car in the world, but it means absolutely nothing if nobody buys it. So what actually drives the buyer? Let's look at the demand side of this whole equation. There are a few key things that really influence whether you or I decide to pull the trigger on buying a car. It starts with the basics, like disposable income. Do people actually have extra cash to spend? But it also goes way deeper into things like the total cost of running the car, how good the service is after you buy it, and this one's a biggie, how easy it is to get financing. This quote just says it all, doesn't it? For most people, a car is the second biggest purchase they'll ever make, right after a house. So the ability to get a loan doesn't just make it possible, it actually pulls future demand into the present. People are buying cars today that they otherwise would have had to save up for years to get. And the scale of this is just staggering. I mean, look at this. In India alone, there were over 86,000 crore rupees, that's more than 10 billion US dollars, in active loans just for two-wheelers back in 2022. It just goes to show you how much the market really depends on financing for vehicles of every single size. Because, hey, any smart buyer knows that the sticker price is really just the beginning of the story. You're thinking about the lifetime costs, right? Fuel, maintenance, insurance, what happens if something breaks? This is exactly why car companies are always talking about fuel efficiency and long warranties. They know that the total cost of ownership is a huge part of your decision. All right, so we've got supply, we've got demand, but now let's talk about the wild cards. These are the outside forces, things like government rules and public infrastructure that can come in and completely change the entire game for everybody. So take the big shift to electric vehicles. For EVs to really take over, people have to be able to refuel them easily. Right now, there are two main ways of thinking about this. You've got charging, which is super convenient if you do it at home overnight, but it can take hours. Or you've got battery swapping.
Now, swapping is incredibly fast. We're talking minutes, but it needs a huge investment in infrastructure, and, this is the tricky part, all the car makers would need to agree on a standard battery design. Government rules also play a massive role. Just look at this timeline of emission standards in India. Every single time a new stage came in, like that big jump from the BS4 to the much tougher BSVI norms, car companies had to pour tons of money into new technology to make their engines cleaner. And while that's great for the air we breathe, those costs, they often get passed right along to the customer.
And this really shows you how regulations can be a classic double-edged sword. For example, making 6 airbags mandatory in cars makes them safer, for sure, but it also makes them more expensive. On the flip side, tax breaks can give EV sales a huge boost. But get this, a simple rule change that allowed trucks to carry more weight actually reduced the demand for new trucks. Why? Because suddenly 5 trucks could do the work that used to take 6.
So, after looking at all these different pieces of the puzzle, from tiny microchips to massive government policies, let's step back and put it all together. Let's look at the big picture. And here it is, our two-sided coin all in one place. On the supply side, you've got that constant squeeze from commodity prices, the availability of parts, and labor stability. And pushing from the other side, on the demand side, you have the drivers, people's income, access to financing, and the real cost of owning and running the vehicle. The entire industry is just this constant, delicate balancing act between these two powerful forces. Which kind of leaves us with one last question to chew on. As we look ahead, which of these hidden drivers do you think is going to have the biggest impact? Will it be some breakthrough in battery tech, a big shift in how we finance our cars, or maybe a new regulation that nobody's even thought of yet? Whatever the answer is, it's going to define the cars we're all driving tomorrow.